Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to the December 12th, 2018 Board of Agriculture meeting. And we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I'm showing a time of 8:03. If you would please all stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and go to roll call. We'll start with the board members here in Las Vegas. If we could start from my left.
Paul No, Nursery Industry, Clark County.
Jim Snyder, row crops, Lyon County.
Heather Lockheed, Douglas County, representing pest control.
Paul Anderson, Washoe County Petroleum.
Wood Spratling, Livestock, Yellow County.
Dave Kuhn, Dairy Industry, Clark County.
Farmland Higby, Lincoln County, grazing and, I think that's what it was supposed to be, grazing.
Tim Defrina, Livestock, Humboldt County.
Pete Paris, Lateral Growers, Elko County.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and go up to our board member. It sounds like we have one there in Sparks. Charlie?
Good morning, Charlie Frey, Churchill County, representing crops, general farm.
Thank you, Charlie. While we're there in Sparks, if we could go ahead and have department staff introduce themselves, please.
Megan Brown, Deputy Administrator, Plant Industries Division. Rebecca Aller, Public Information Officer. Ashley White, Administrative Assistant.
Deborah Crowley, Fiscal Administrator. Jennifer Ott, Plant Industry Administrator.
Chris Miller, Commercial Fruit.
That's it for us.
I'm sorry, the gentleman, I could not hear his name or who he, what he represented.
Chris.
What do you say?
He couldn't hear you.
Say it again.
Chris Miller, Marshall Fruit.
Oh. All right, thanks, Chris. Okay, again, it doesn't look like we have anyone in Elko, but we'll go ahead and we go to staff here in Las Vegas.
Doug Ferris, Animal Industry, Department of Agriculture.
Alora Bartos, Executive Assistant.
Dennis Belcourt, Deputy Attorney General.
Your Co-Public Information Officer.
Morning, Cadence Matievich, Consumer Accessibility Division. And Terry Conrad, Interim Director. Sorry, I missed that.
It's okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you all being here. And so we're going to go ahead and open up. Our next item is public comment, and we did have some public comment that was sent in to us. We received one from Tracy Wilson writing in about the Virginia Range horses, and she did not want to speak unless, were you able to make it? Are you here by chance, Tracy?
She was not able to make it.
Okay, then we'll go on to the others that sent in the information. So we have another one from Teresa Klein, and Teresa says that you would wish to speak. I would. Okay, go ahead and if you would move up to the seat there in front of you.
Thank you.
And just want to remind everyone, you have 3 minutes, and please try to, and I realize most of the board is here in Las Vegas, but address the board as a whole. We do ask that you do your best to be cordial, as well as try not to keep repeating each other. We appreciate that if each of you could talk about different parts of your concern. So with that being said, Teresa, thank you, and go ahead.
All right, thank you. My name is Therese Klein, and I'm with the Wild Horse Preservation League out of Dayton, Nevada. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My fellow advocates that are here will be petitioning you about reinstating our PCP program in some form of our cooperative agreement, which I am in full support of that effort. in some of my activities in trying to support the wild horses, I find I need a lot more from the Department of Agriculture, and I'm here to ask for your help and to offer the help of our volunteers in some of the activities that happen in our area, with especially the Highway 50 corridor. I have responsibility or am involved in Carson City all the way to Silver Spring. So I get a lot of phone calls about horses along the highway and public safety issues. We'd like to develop a program where the wild horses are managed through a successful community-based partnership. This is no cost to taxpayers. We've done it before. We can do it again. The local community and businesses value the horses. You've heard from a lot of our business leaders about that. It's also an outdoor recreational and photographic opportunity for people. But I know that you're responsible for a great deal more. Public amusement and photographer interest are not really all you have to worry about. You've got public safety, farming, ranching, mining, and commercial, homeowner nuisance complaints, and you really don't have a lot of budget to work with all that. So I'd like to work together with you. The Alliance of Wild Horse Advocates includes my group and a number of other groups that bond in trying to support our horses. We would like to reinstate the PCP darting program. We would like to work with you on removals. I know I've been involved in 2 horse deaths just in the last week, one of which we had to call authorities out to euthanize the horse. So we're very sensitive to public safety, very sensitive to the fact that it's kind of difficult sometimes to get someone and to know exactly who to call when you've got an issue with a horse. I'd like to work with you on that, on defining better those issues. I understand it kind of varies from county to county, so you can give me some guidance there, I hope. We'd like to know when you do pick up a horse, if someone's injured. We keep a database of these horses. We'd like to know when they disappear, what happened to them. We like to find adopters. If you do have to pick up a horse, we would like to work with you. So if we can be notified and work with you, that would benefit the horses, you, and the Alliance of Wild Horse Advocates.
All right, that is the time, Teresa. Thank you very much for coming forward and speaking to us.
All righty.
Okay, hold on just a moment here while I go through the different ones. So we have one that was sent in by Christine, but Christine, you did not want to speak this morning, as I understand it?
Christine has given me hard copy. She's also put it on your website. I'll be leaving mine and hers.
Okay, thank you. And let's see here, Louise Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to speak in the comments after, the last comments period after the...
Oh, at the end of the board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that would be perfect. And actually, I think that's all that I have. Are there any others that wish to speak there in Sparks?
Yes.
Steve H.
Want to speak?
We
Are we speaking now?
we were planning to listen to the meeting first and the director's report, et cetera, and then speak at the second public comment.
Okay. What about Susan, is it Ray? Roy?
Oh, that's me. Same, yeah.
You want to speak now?
No, at the second period.
Wayne, World?
Second period, please.
Yeah, okay. Maureen,
James?
Ganny,
Second period.
and Dan,
Walker?
Walker.
Second period. Is there anybody else? Okay.
And Charlie, that's everyone that you had slips for?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is at the end, the final comment, Charlie, I'll go ahead and just turn it over to you to take control of the meeting there, so you can listen to those people. Well, we'll be listening too, but if you'll just take it at the end. So we'll go ahead and move on. If it looks like Elko, still no public comment here in Las Vegas. Any public comment? All right. With that being said, we'll move on to number 3, board presentations. We have the oath of office for Paul No and our new member, Barlin Higbee.
Please rise and raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I state your name.
Harlan Higby.
Paul No,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly
Do solemnly swear.
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect,
the
and defend the
Constitution.
the Constitution and government of the United States
Constitution of the
Constitution and government of the United States,
and the Constitution and government of the state of Nevada
and the
Constitution and government of the state of Nevada,
against all enemies, whether domestic or foreign,
against all enemies, whether domestic or foreign,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance and loyalty to the same,
and that I will bear true faith, allegiance, and loyalty to the same.
any ordinance, resolution, or law of any state notwithstanding,
Any ordinance, resolution, or law, any state notwithstanding.
and that I will well and faithfully perform all duties of the office of member of the Board of Agriculture,
And that I will well and faithfully perform all the duties of the office of member, Board of Agriculture,
on which I am about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
and which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Wow. Well,
All right.
Paul, thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate everything you've done over the years.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to be anywhere.
And Barlin, welcome aboard. Glad to have you here and looking forward to working with you.
Well, I hope I can be an asset,
I'm sure
not
you
a
will.
burden.
Okay, we'll move on to 3B, Board of Agriculture 2019 meeting dates. And Laura, did you want to say anything about these dates?
So typically we just do the first Wednesday of the quarter. So those are the dates I have here, but if there are any conflicts that anybody can think of, let me know.
So let's go to the board. Do any of you see any conflicts looking at the calendar for 2019?
I'll be in DC on the 6th.
March 6th?
Anyway.
And any other concerns as far as that date? When will you be back and when will you be leaving?
I'll be home on the 6th.
Okay.
I leave on the 2nd.
Any other concerns with the calendar? I mean, is everyone thinking that we should just go ahead and keep it where it is, or?
Mr. Chairman, just a note, the June 5th date would be the day after the legislative session is scheduled to conclude. So if by chance they don't finish their work in 120 days, there could be some overlap there. Just, I don't think it's anything to change anything for, but I think it's probably worth knowing.
Okay, thank you, yeah. And Lord knows they don't always finish.
Not
Yes,
always.
sir.
June 5th, I have conflicting dates with that, but I will work around it if it's not changeable.
Any other concerns? So I think we're gonna go ahead and let's go ahead and plan on these dates if by chance we have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right, so the motion is to approve the Board of Agriculture 2019 meeting dates. Pete made the motion, and the second was by Heather Lackey. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to 3C, discussion regarding the recruitment process to appoint a new director. So obviously this has been at the forefront of all of our minds, with, the fact that Jerry is doing double duty and by the way, doing a very fine job of that. But obviously, we've been reaching out, trying to get applications to come in. We have received 5 applications. Unfortunately, 2 of them did not meet the qualifications for the position. And so we have 3 that do meet the qualifications, but we have made the decision for a couple different reasons that we're going to keep the window open for applications to come in a little bit longer. Actually, to the point that we find we fill the position actually. So the process has gone slower than I think all of us had hoped. But again, what we have to realize is that actually, as we talked about a little bit last night, it's a bit of a dance in the sense that we as the board hire the director, but it is someone that is then appointed by the governor. So we have been in communication with the governor-elect Sisolak's office, and obviously they've got a lot that they're doing right now. They have a transition team that is trying to get everything in place for him when he takes office. But we are one of 4 departments that are in the exact same situation in that they do not have a director as well. So we're not the only ones that are trying to get his attention to make a quick decision on his side and look at things. We have been in conversations with them, and they do understand our desire to fill this position as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, we need to be cognizant of that they are still in the transition process, and that Jerry had an opportunity to meet with them last week. And anything you care to add to the thoughts on this, or?
No, I think you covered everything. I think just wanting to make sure that everyone has the time to review the applicants that we've received and that we hopefully continue to receive, so you guys can make that best decision.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just to make it clear, the application process is still open.
Mm-hmm.
We are reopening it today. So it had closed, but we are reopening the process, and we'll keep that open until the position is filled. Questions from the board, concerns? Yes.
When does the board get to see who has applied?
So what the plan is that the vice chair and I will review actually all of the applications, including those that did not even meet the qualifications. And then what we're going to do is discuss how many of those applications are brought before the board. Typically, you're going to have 2 or 3 that will actually come before, but we have 5 fantastic candidates, then maybe that's what we need to do, is cut out that time to meet with each and every one of them, so you all have the opportunity to talk to them and then make the decision. So really, I would say that it's going to be kind of playing it by ear on how many that continue to come in. We expect that it'll be a bit of a lull until after the holidays. But at this point, yeah, we're going to go ahead and keep it open and just keep an eye out for the applications to come in. Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming that the meeting is canceled for next Thursday, the 19th.
Yes.
So that's okay. And also, any idea? I mean, there's no deadline, like midsummer. Is that what we're going to look for, or no? Hard to say.
I'm not going to put a date on it, but let's put it this way. I really believe we've got to have someone in position by the time the legislature starts at the beginning of February. I mean, we ideally would have had someone that we could be interviewing next week and giving them our stamp of approval and then moving it to the governor's office. But again, remembering that he doesn't take office until the beginning of January, that's where we're kind of in this, I guess, in limbo. as far as, not having a clear direction at this point.
So you will get a hold of us and
Yes.
when that's, he's had a chance to review stuff, and
Correct.
then you'll call a meeting and let us know.
Yeah, and you guys will actually see the applications, because at that point they become public. And, you will be able to see them, you'll know the names, you'll know, probably even know backgrounds of the people. If they're, coming in the agriculture industry, then, it's quite possible that you guys will know something about them already. All right?
Will the members have access to those prior to that meeting? Or we expect everybody to consume each resume at the meeting?
No, I mean.
They'll have access before.
Correct me, Dennis, if I'm wrong, but yeah,
Access before.
you will have access before.
Okay.
So you and I will review them all, and then whether we move them all forward or just the ones that are qualified.
That's gonna be important for everybody to have,
Yes.
read through everything first, you know,
Yes.
not trying to rush it at the meeting.
So when the board chair decides to, say that these are the applicants that the board is going to review, that's when they become public on that agenda item, and so you guys would have any resumes and that kind of a thing at that point.
Yes, sir.
And so then it will become a public meeting, and then it's a 2-week.
You guys can set whatever, timeline you want, so you could review applications, and then in 1 week you could, again, we could kind of pencil out a whole date for interviews.
So it doesn't have to be like, a certain timeline.
As long as we meet the 3-day, public meeting
Just a
notification,
3-day.
yes.
And we'll go through it as we're getting closer. I mean, ideally, these, like when Director Barbie was brought on, I'm not sure, were you here, Paul? I mean, there were a few of us that were here at that point, and yeah, the applicant comes before us, we ask our questions, and they have a chance to kind of tell us who they are and why they want the position, and then, once we listen to all those, then we deliberate on who we believe would be the best person for that spot. So that's that same process that we'll hold for this, and, yeah, we want to make sure that we've got, all of the best applicants coming before us. One of the things that I really believe that, because we're still in this transition period, that there are probably some people that have not put their name in the hat, just not knowing what the future holds with us as a state. So, that's what I had to talk to you guys about. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. Okay. All right. Charlie, you're good up there?
Yep.
All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to item number 4, the minutes. The item is to approve September 5th, 2018 meeting minutes. I hope that you've all had an opportunity to look through them and make sure that you did not see any errors or any corrections that need to be made. You guys have any questions, concerns about the minutes?
Move to approve.
All right, Dr. Strickland, thank you. Okay, so Dr. Sprathling made the motion to approve. Jim Snyder seconded the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. And we do have one abstention for the good reason that he wasn't here. All right. The motion passes. Thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to 5A, the director's report, and interim director Conrad.
All right, so you have the director's report. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. So if you have a specific question about something, please let me know. LCB did come down in September, and we toured a couple of folks through through our Sparks office, as well as our warehouse, and so that was very helpful. Warehouse in particular, because it was on CIP. But I think, as usual, it's quite a good learning process, and in this case, we had a new analyst, new to us, and then someone who's been with LCD for a long time, so it was a good conversation, and our division administrators led the tours through each of their divisions. Grazing fire meeting with Congressman Amodei, and then later on you'll see that there was a FEMA presentation. So Congressman Amodei is working to improve Nevada's relationship with FEMA as far as an understanding of what it means when we have wildfire in Nevada, how that looks different than when, say, more populated areas have wildfires, and what those losses mean to Nevadans. And so an initial meeting with some state and federal agencies in Winnemucca, and then a presentation with FEMA from our region as well as FEMA from DC, where each division or department and or state federal representative could kind of talk about what impacts look like in our area. And Megan Brown, she put together a presentation on behalf of our department, and she did a great job in working with our team to pull some numbers to show that even though there's no buildings perhaps that burned, but that the impacts are great to our rural areas and to our economy, and to farmers and ranchers and animals and all of those things. So I think it was a very good meeting, and it was positive. I think FEMA understood where we were coming from, and being able to present kind of resources all together like that was a great opportunity. So we look forward to kind of how that plays out in the future. Let's see. In October, actually we had a couple of meetings, Doug and myself, with the operations manager for blockchains, when they've had expressed some interest in feral stray horses that are on their property. So that's the Truckee Regional Industrial Center. Sorry, if folks aren't familiar. They're the recent owners of that property. And so they've expressed some interest in working with the department, because, as you can imagine, how many acres do they have? How much do you remember?
I believe they own approximately 70,000 acres themselves. So,
and that's, an area that is, as anyone in the north knows, is popular with feral stray horses. That's right in the Virginia Range area. And so as of right now, we have a letter drafted that we're going to send out to blockchains hopefully this afternoon, just requesting that the items that they discussed in that meeting, that they can give to us in writing, so I can forward that on to the board. So, let's see. We have, I was able to go to a small portion of the Governor's Global Tourism Summit, and that was a really good opportunity to, where Governor Sandoval, I think that's his last conference that he would be overseeing as governor, and so that was kind of nice, where he talked about the variety of work that he's done and how important the state is, right? And his history here, which, as you guys know, has really included agriculture as a priority. So that was nice to be able to be a part of that. And then we are working with taxation to work our role of testing when it comes to marijuana, with their role of, as that they're regulators as far as the industry grows, and our portion is pesticide testing and a few other testing. So we have met with them recently to kind of work out how we can I know Jed's in there, but, basically modeling what they're doing, how they're packaging the marijuana, how they're, you know, have controls over it, and we will be doing the same on our end, so that as, you know, partner agencies, we're all working from the same page, so. And we have been testing for, you know, since it started, but, we hadn't really had a good process worked out together, so we have just been able to kind of, solidify that, so that is, I think will be very helpful on our end. And then in the future, we'll also be working with, DPS, again, kind of, you know, to understand each other's roles and make sure we're all working together on that. So, any questions?
Pete, did I understand you to say that somebody owns 70,000 acres of the Virginia Range area?
Private property. It's
Private property.
the Tahoe Regional Industrial Center that's, right there off USA Parkway.
Okay.
Where, like Amazon and Walmart and blockchains and, yeah.
Actually, as I understand it, they are the single largest property owner, which the majority of the Virginia Range is actually private property. And they are now the single largest owner of property in the range.
I never realized that there was somebody that, I knew it was mostly private property, but I did not realize that somebody owned that magnitude of a piece of property.
Yes, and, I mean, they're showing an interest that they want to, work to lead the way in helping with the solution with the Virginia Range horses. And so that's exciting, but there are some questions and concerns that need to come forward first, just before we start talking too much about what possibilities there are.
Is all of that in Story County, or are we elsewhere in life?
The majority is gonna be in Story, but I believe they do, I think some of it goes over into Lyon County, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you. So we'll move on to item 6, administration. A is the board update from Deborah. Good morning, Deborah.
Morning, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Just a quick update on the fiscal portion of the department. We have a few work programs that will be on the next IFC meeting, which is in the end of January, and basically those are just cleanup of increasing revenues and realigning authority with expenditures. For the next Board of Examiners meeting, we currently do not have anything on the agenda. And for the fiscal office, fiscal staff, we have one vacancy. Our account technician just took a job with Churchill County, so she'll be joining Jim Barbie. So we will miss her, but we are recruiting for that position, and that position assists in the food and nutrition budget. So we do need to get that filled quickly as possible. We've undergone several routine audits, and they went well. They're complete. We do have follow-up audits from the State Internal Auditors Department. That is on the rates that we charge for processing the food and nutrition delivery of foods. We will be providing an updated report based on the last fiscal year to the auditors to decide whether we should be increasing our delivery rate fees or not. We are currently in the GovRec phase of our new biennial budget, and frankly, normally we would be receiving a lot of questions, a lot of requests for information. It's been fairly quiet, so we're not sure what's going on. Which, you know, the fiscal department's okay with that, because, you know, that means we provided them with a lot of information, or it could just be that they're in the transition phase and we haven't really heard anything yet. So we are, any questions that we do get, we're trying to respond as quickly as possible. And I did attach a copy of the budget and the current status. Right now, the total annual budget for all the divisions is $233,702 and $28 million. And the cash on hand, the actual revenues received are about $58,500,000. The actual expenditures are approximately $50,366,000,000, and the cash on hand is approximately $8.128 million. Does anybody have any questions?
Any board questions for Rebecca here? I'm sorry, Deborah. I was looking at the next item, sorry.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Is the
Yes, go
federal
ahead,
draw gonna be, coming in fairly soon?
Yes, we are required, for some of the food and nutritions are, one of the largest, budgets that we have to do draws, and, we have to expend the money and then we have to draw it in as quickly as possible. For some of the programs, we are required within 2 to 3 business days to draw in that federal amount, and others, it's just, they within 2 weeks.
So we spend and then get reimbursed?
Yes.
After we prove we spend?
For all the federal, expenditures, we, have to spend the money and then draw it in after.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions? Deborah, thank you very much. I think it goes to show you guys are doing a good job. If there aren't a whole lot of things that you're concerned with as far as audits and such. So thank you for what you guys do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to 6B, board update from Rebecca.
Thank you. Hi, Rebecca Allard for the record. Mr. Chairman, am I okay over here, or do you want me to go to the middle?
You're good there. I think we can hear you fine, but I just want to make sure, did Woody happen to show up for the meeting?
Yes, I'm
He
here.
did. He got here around, what was it, 8:30?
8:08 for the record, Chair.
All right, well, thank you for joining us.
My bad. So just a couple of highlights from the communications and promotions team. We're, from a communications perspective, we are gearing up for the legislature, which includes planning for Legislative Ag Day, and the update and reprint of our Carson City local food map, so legislators know where they can eat near the building, that will have local food. That also includes our biennial report for legislators, kind of a high-level overview of the agency's accomplishments, and also compiling and analyzing the data for the economic analysis report. From a media relations, and also we got our new mechanical milking cow for Southern Nevada, and we're in the process of designing a wrap for the trailer and some accompanying banners and outreach materials. So that's pretty exciting.
What's your name, Rebecca?
Oh, I'm sorry. We had a contest to name or not a contest, a polling, I guess, on social media to name the cow, and the new cow's name is Moonique.
What?
Moonique.
Moonique in the south,
Melissa
in the north.
Yeah, Melissa in the north and Moonique in the south. So that was really fun. That helped us get, a little bit of fun engagement from our social followers. And we also engaged staff, beforehand by having the voting on our intranet. So,
if I could just interrupt you, and I want to say that it seems like kind of a silly thing for Monique, and Melissa. But I'll tell you what, I've been to different events where the NDA staff had her on display, and everything from watching legislators milking to at farm, different farm-related events like what's the one there in Sparks? The
farmer's market.
Farmer's market, thank you. And watching the kids and adults learn about milking cows and likewise engaging with agriculture. So I thank you for what you guys do with that. That's a cool program.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's a really fun and easy way to engage kids and adults in understanding a little bit better where their food comes from, which is why it was so valuable for us to have another one that we can use in the other half of the state. The Nevada Centennial Awards happened in the last quarter. We acknowledged 3 families. We inducted 3 families into the Centennial Awards, and they were acknowledged at the Nevada Cattlemen's Banquet last month. And, media relations-wise, it's been pretty quiet. We do still get inquiries about pests and insects pretty regularly. We did have a successful pitch recently between our Consumer Equitability Division and Plant Industry Division on caution when buying firewood. And other than that, it's actually been a relatively quiet quarter for media relations. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Okay. Do any of the board members have questions for Rebecca? All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. So we'll move on to item 7, animal industry. A, the board update from Doug Ferris. Okay. Hang on.
I'm calling in my reinforcements.
Hang on just a minute. We're getting the backup on the phone.
Okay.
So hold on just a moment.
What did he say?
What's that?
Phone a friend.
There's phone a friend.
Good morning. For the record, Doug Ferris, Division Administrator for Animal Industries. And then on the phone on speaker, we have Dr. J.J. Goakachia, who wasn't able to attend in person, but wanted to call in and put his 2 cents in where it can be helped. So, you there, J.J.?
Yep, good morning, everybody. Sorry I couldn't make it down.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, so I'll start off, as far as personnel actions, we actually are pretty happy. Before the last quarter, we had 7 vacant positions in animal industry, and at this time we've, well, I guess we actually had 8, but since this time we've filled 7 of those, so we're pretty happy to have made that kind of a leap in one quarter. So we're going to try and get the other ones filled and hopefully move on and keep things going in a positive sense there. With investigations, we had 2 of our enforcement officers. One is Raul, who's located here in Las Vegas, and then Chris from Sparks we sent down because of the NFR, all the events going on currently in the Las Vegas area. We have both of them down here for 10 days, kind of at the beginning, as animals start coming into the different events. And in talking to Chris, I know he said they personally inspected over 700 animals that came into these different events, checking for health papers, things like that. Any violations they found, nothing was quarantined, but they did kind of hold some up for a little bit until they produced the correct paperwork, which luckily they all did. So the only thing I can say, I think they did a great job, but with the size of this area and the amount of animals that come in, Chris told me that they could probably have all 5 staff members down here and stay for 2 weeks, just logistically to have people everywhere. One example that he gave me was just the South Point, as far as animals that they bring in there for their events. He said it should be over 6,000 animals that'll pass through South Point during these 2 to 3 weeks there. So I think we'll try next year, at least trying to get some more people down here, but they did a good job with what they found down here, and it was, it's kind of interesting. I've actually gotten some phone calls from, as far as Texas, just because of the last couple of years and what they've been doing, asking questions about things that some of the enforcement staff out of Texas said they weren't even aware of, as far as some of our entry requirements, some of our brand laws and things like that. So I think we're making a positive impact if we're reaching that far across the country and getting people's attention of what we're watching and having them come in here. So between the state veterinarian and the enforcement officers, they've investigated multiple neglect and abuse cases across the state, primarily in the northeastern section right now. All those are still under investigation, and they're in conjunction with either some of the local sheriff's offices or their animal control officers. We're working with them, some down in the southern area here too also. Do you want to do the state veterinarian part, JJ, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Doug. It's probably easier for them to hear from you, and then I'll add in or answer questions.
Okay. All right. You can tell me where I fall off. So, Dr. Gokichi is serving on a group that looks into USDA proposals to eliminate free NUES tags. This will have a significant impact on livestock marketing and interstate movement of livestock. Work continues in expanding of the use of RFID brucellosis vaccination tags in Nevada. Distribution concerns with these tags have been addressed, and future distributions are being closely monitored. Also, a continued push by USDA to eliminate the use of RB51 vaccine for the control of Brucella abortus is concerning. Nevada opposed a resolution calling for eliminating the need for calf foot vaccination. Most of the current concern is over raw milk sales, something that's illegal in Nevada, other than when it's approved in pet food, so under our commercial feed regulations. JJ?
Yes.
Do you want to follow up then? That's the end of your state veterinarian portion.
So, I just want to be clear that the 9-digit news tags are the metal tags that we've been putting in, and Nevada's a little bit unique. You touched on it in my report on brucellosis vaccination. We put a metal tag in for brucellosis vaccination in addition to any adult animal over 18 months of age that does not have that tag in her ear, or his ear in the case of a bull, needs a silver bright tag in order to move interstate. So USDA is talking about doing away with those free tags and completely phasing those out. It's early in the process, but right now we're kind of bouncing around a 2022, 2023 date. Not very long, 3-4 years. And those tags won't be available, and then it will be all EID tags that will have to be applied after that and used for interstate travel. I'm trying to get metal tags grandfathered in for the beef industry, especially here in Nevada, where a tag may be placed in 2020, and that cow might not go to market until 35, somewhere in there. And it seems unfair to put that on the livestock producer to have to put another secondary form of ID in, and he's going to private treaty that. And of course, a lot of these are coming from the Midwest and the East, where it's all sale barns. That doesn't work for us because we do sell so many cattle private treaty. So that's the update on that. And then the brucellosis vaccination, obviously, the industry has spoken, and I think you guys know how I feel. We will continue to require brucellosis vaccination. We are the closest state to the greater Yellowstone area, and we've got a lot of exposure from wildlife and from commuter herds. So I don't think we're going to move anytime soon on that.
Okay. Thank you, JJ. All right. Moving on to administration section. Park employees, they have been over the last quarter. They've provided technical assistance, non-lethal predator recommendations, and removal of predators across 12 counties in the state in the last quarter. Multiple species were addressed. The largest of these, or the majority of the species, were the coyotes, bobcats, lions, skunks, rabbits, and ravens. They provided public outreach to 147 either individuals or businesses during the time. Primary predators that were removed were 79% coyotes, 20% ravens, and 1% mountain lions. The agricultural product losses verified by these employees, or the percentage of product losses was 61% sheep, cattle 1%, fowl 37%, and wildlife 1%. Vision, we're still working on sending out as far as training for our brand inspectors. I know we had mentioned before that we did an in-person training in Elko. Since that time, we continue to send out emails and things like that, reach out to them in that sense. We kind of wanted to get through the shipping season before we moved on. I think probably like Winnemucca and Ely will be our next moves, to where we're going to have staff attend those and bring all the brand inspectors in and do more training there. We received some pretty positive feedback from all of them during that time, so during the first training. So we're hoping to keep progressing that along. Division staff is continue following up on the livestock assessment tax. We've kind of really fine-tuned that and reworked a lot of the program. And plus, with some of our new staff, they've been pretty aggressive in that, and we seem to be making advances there. For 2017, so far staff, for fiscal year 2017, we collected $241,796, and for the FY18 year, so far is $223,692. The reason I put both is because with the new online system, if a producer goes to pay their current head tax, they can also, there's a tab where they can click if they haven't paid 2017 either. So we're able to track them. We have some that missed both years, so they can go ahead and go on, they'll pay their 2017 and their 2018. So, and that, just since this is new with the UL program, as it continues, then we'll be able to have a tracking back as far as many years as we need to at that point, and we'll just keep adding to it. Estimated the current head tax compliant for 2017 was 65%, or is 65%, and as of current, we're 60% on 2018, so I think we're making some advances there, since we still have some time left to keep collecting those for the 18 years.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
What is the procedure for, if we're looking at 65% in 2017, and obviously 16, 15 probably are in the same boat or worse?
Worse from the numbers I've seen.
What is the approach from the department on collecting those, because it is a statutory requirement?
It's statutory, and we have the authority to go back 5 years. Our issue with the 5-year is because without the electronic backup, we would have to go dig through all the paper files to try and find out who received brand inspections and compare that to the Excel spreadsheets that we have showing who paid their head tax. So for the most part right now, we've been sticking with just 17 and 18 because we can pull it up within, a matter of seconds and see who has paid and who hasn't, and also who's getting brand inspections or registered, if they have a registered iron in the state. I know that's one thing we've used with the electronic system, is that we're able to go in and make a list of everybody that has a registered iron. Any of those that are now past due in 417 or 18, we deactivate their brand. So if somebody tries to issue a brand inspection, it actually grays the brand out in the electronic system, and they can't enter the information.
So how long do you wait before you get to that point where you turn it off? Or
it's already, we've done it for anybody that hadn't paid 17.
Okay.
We had already deactivated their brands when we started collecting 18. 18, I believe we waited till, I think it was around August 1st, September 1st. We gave them a month, to be late, I guess, basically. Even though they're charged a $10 late fee, we gave them that amount of time. And then the Elko office staff went in and started deactivating all of those brands also. Some of them, if there's people that don't have, if they don't have a registered brand in Nevada, then we find those by when they get a brand inspection, they'll look at it and they'll check head tax. If there hasn't been any head tax paid, then they'll notify the inspectors, or they'll contact those individuals.
Right.
And in that sense, we've collected a lot of fees there just by contacting them. Some people had no idea, didn't know, had forgotten. So I think we're progressing, but it was slow, and I think we were coming from behind to begin with. That was basically before, if you paid your fees that were statutorily required, you were good, and if you didn't, nobody ever followed up and did anything, so.
Thank you.
We also had attached the enforcement officers, their statistics for the last quarter. During this last week in November, the new wildlife biologist that works out of the Elko office, we had him come down to the Sparks office and train with our staff there. During the last legislative session, we were actually approved to buy some new testing equipment that was slotted for the Elko office. We didn't have a position there, and between Dr. Goicoechea and Sydney Wintermote, they didn't have time to run everything if we had ordered it. So this year we are ramping up to order that equipment. Dr. Goicoechea hopes that we'll have be able to do PCR testing and such like that. And the new biologist is sharp and catching on very quickly and very eager to do this. So we're hoping with the training he received down in our Sparks office and then getting the new equipment, and we'll have that testing up next year. Both myself and Dr. Goicoechea attended the Cattlemen's Convention in Winnemucca in November. We provided updates at the Wool Growers Breakfast and also some other conventions during that. During that time, Dr. Goicoechea participated in a 2-hour panel discussion concerning changes to the current trichomonas testing program for Nevada. And I don't know, do you want to give an update on that, JJ, or should we let?
I'm happy. It was a good panel presentation. It was just to get the information out there on what other adjoining states are doing, predominantly Idaho. For example, share some data with people regarding our testing, number of positive goals, and the trends that we're seeing both in Idaho and Nevada, because they do have some very different programs. I mean, it was just to get the information out there. I think there will be some workshop work. We're going to have to change those rates one way or another to put some more teeth into those. I'm eagerly awaiting the board's interviews on a new director and see where we go that direction, because that's going to be a big part of it. As we work together with that new director, state quarantine officer, moving forward, and we want to make sure we get these rates right and put a little more teeth in them. That's really all I have.
Thank you.
All right. Our animal disease lab, Laura Morrow, who's our lab supervisor, actually worked on a grant for West Nile virus and rabies testing, and we were successful in that and awarded a grant for that. So we'll have some extra funds there for testing. Division, we're currently in the process of transferring. We do all the licensing programs as far as dealers, auction licenses, things like that through our division, and everything was done on paper format, and then the records kept on Excel spreadsheets. So we're currently working with our IT department on having a program made for that, as far as like the commercial feed. That'll be a web-based UL program. So it'll take a lot of staff hours out. People will be able to go online, fill in all their information, and then once we're able to review their applications, they can pay and print out their own certificate. So we're looking for that maybe in the next year. We're hoping. Some of that takes a long time to get in process. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Did have one question for you, going back to the West Nile virus rabies grant. So is that actually going to give us the ability to expand the testing, or is it going to actually just help us fund what we're already doing?
For the most part, it's helping us fund, because we have the staff and we have the ability to test what's coming in right now. So there's not anything. Las Vegas, Clark County kind of pulled out last year as far as they started doing some of their own West Nile testing. If they were to come back, we have the availability then to bring that back and succeed with it. But it's just adding funds for that testing that kind of offset the general funds that we operate under.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Dr. Spratling.
In visiting with other practicing veterinarians in the state, I have a question for the state veterinarian. Are we currently accepting pooled sampling for trichomonas testing Are those results now being approved in the state of Nevada?
JJ, you there?
Cricket.
Hello? Shows he's still on there.
Probably muted.
But I don't have the particulars, but I know, I guess in the past it was said that we didn't accept those.
Correct.
And as far as I know now, we still aren't. We are looking at accepting pooled samples. I know there's discussion.
Sorry, Doug, go ahead. I really apologize. Yeah, the doctor's office had called me. I was on another line. You want to ask that question again? I'm sorry, Doug.
Okay, I'll let, Dr. Spratly had a question.
I had a question. Currently, are you accepting pooled samples for trichomonas?
No, we are not currently accepting full samples. That was a policy that's been in place for quite a while. And we are not. Mauro and I are looking at that. And you know, I've had the conversation with you as well, that I fully expect to start receiving full samples. It does require a little tweak to the protocol that we use on individual samples. I'm comfortable that we can do it, and so is she. And so I think we will start doing that. Along those lines, Dr. Sprouting, I am also recommending that we look at receiving the T-fetus tubes in addition to the pouches. A lot of veterinarians, and predominantly in states surrounding us, because for whatever reason we have a policy that doesn't allow the tubes in Nevada, but those tubes are a lot more user-friendly to veterinarians and laboratory staff, especially when you're doing pooled samples. So those are two things we're looking at, and with any luck, we'll have those on early in the year, definitely before we see that flux of spring testing coming in. If we're going to do it, we'll have it in time for that.
Okay, one additional question then. You're saying that the Nevada lab won't be capable of pooled testing for a while. What if testing is coming from another certified lab where the test was done elsewhere for a pooled sample?
No, we do not accept pooled samples, period.
Okay.
So that will, even coming into the state, you must have an individual. That is a regulatory change that will need to take place. And then again, that's all part of this process that we're going to be going through. Pooled samples are not accepted in the state of Nevada. If you come from Utah and you've got 5 bulls and they were run on pools, we'll test them individually before you can come in. That is written into the regulations.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board? All right. Well, thank you, JJ. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, JJ.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Item number 8, consumer equitability board update. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Settled here. For the record, I'm Hayden Smatievich, Administrator for the Consumer Equitability Division. I believe you have my report. There's a couple of things in there that I want to update. We've had some activity since then and just elaborate on a little bit. I started my report with an update on the regulations that at each of your last meetings I've been speaking to you about. Our interim director did adopt those regulations on October 19th. And they are scheduled to go before the Legislative Commission a week from tomorrow. So we are anticipating approval of those adopted regulations. The effective date of those regulations won't be until July 1 of 2019, however, because a good portion of those regulations had to do with fees. We did not want to have the fees change in the middle of a fiscal year, and so that's the effective date for those regulations. You may recall from my last update to you all in September, we did ultimately take a step back on the amounts in the fee schedule that we had originally proposed in response to requests from industry, particularly the grocery industry and the liquefied petroleum gas industry, that we phase in those increases over time. And so the fee schedule that was in the regulations that we've adopted was about 66% of what we had initially proposed, with a couple of small exceptions. You may recall we said we went full 100% for the Class 2 metric marijuana, primarily scales,
So we do anticipate, our fiscal need hasn't changed, so we do anticipate that ultimately we would come back with a second set of revisions to get all the way to the originally proposed amount, but that would be at the end of this next upcoming biennium. So again, that was in response to the request to have a phased approach. We have continued our discussions with various representatives of the livestock industry about the myriad of potentials for how we address inspection and certification of livestock scales. I did also attend the Cattlemen's Association meeting, gave a presentation at the Animal Health Committee, just kind of an overview of why our program funding is not currently sufficient and what we'd be looking at. In discussions, I think there's probably a need for us to have a workshop that's specific to livestock scales, and would be looking perhaps late winter, early spring. There's a lot going on for everybody, I understand. I also talked with Mr. Busselman about that, about bringing together all of the various interest groups, knowing that, some ranchers belong to one or the other industry representative groups, some belong to none, and wanting to be sure that we're getting a consensus from everyone in the industry, and I will say that's a distinction here, that really we are seeking consensus and not necessarily compromise, because there in all likelihood will be winners and losers on both sides, depending upon ultimately where we end up. And when I say winners and losers, really more from a financial perspective. We're still going to make sure that everyone gets their scale certified. It's just who's actually out there physically doing it. Is it going to be us, or will it be a private entity? And so we continue those discussions. Similarly, we are engaged in dialogue with the Nevada Liquefied Petroleum Gas Board for the potential to enter into an interlocal agreement with them to have their inspectors perform the meter certification for LPG meters. They have well-trained inspectors who we believe have all the potential in the world to be trained on meter testing, and that there's an opportunity for some economies of scale to take advantage of the fact that they're already visiting all of the locations where these meters exist to do their own regulatory inspections, and that by combining the two, that potentially that total inspection package could be performed at a more efficient rate than us doing it separately. So those discussions are in the early phase. I'm drafting up the scope of work. Obviously, we'll work with Mr. Belcourt and also the DAG from the LP Gas Board. But right now, I'm optimistic about that and think it can be a good, somewhat innovative solution for addressing that specialty group of devices. So as I said, we've got our fingers crossed for blessing of the Legislative Commission at next week's meeting, and certainly we'll give you an update on that as things move forward. We've got some great things going on in our division right now, particularly in our metrology lab. I'm very pleased to be able to share with you that in November we received what's known as NAVLAP accreditation through NIST, the National Voluntary Laboratory Accreditation Program, which we are one of 19 state-run metrology laboratories to have achieved that certification. It's a higher level of accreditation, which will allow for anything that is within our scope for private industry to come in and have us not just as a NIST certified, but as a NIST accredited laboratory. And I think that's going to be really important as the advanced manufacturing and high-tech industries continue to expand in our state, being able to bring their standards into our laboratory rather than to have to go out of state for those services. So as interim director Conrad talked about earlier, economic development in the state, CE is maybe not where you normally think about economic development from an ag standpoint, but our metrology laboratory really is a place where we're connecting with those expanding industries in the state. So we're quite pleased about that. I'm also really pleased to share with you
that our newest metrologist, Kiara Riskey, who was a recent, not this last summer, but the year before, graduated from UNR, joined our staff less than a year ago, has completed all of her NIST training, and is now a NIST approved signatory for our laboratory, which has increased our capacity to accept work by 50%. For her to have completed all of that work under a year and be a NIST certified signatory is quite an accomplishment. We're really proud of her and what's going on in that program. As I noted in my report, we submitted our annual certification submission to NIST back in October, and in the latter part of yesterday afternoon, I got notice from NIST that our scope has been approved. So that is an expanded scope for both our Sparks and Las Vegas lab, which will allow us to continue to provide increased levels of service to private industry in our state. So very excited about what's going on in our metrology program, and that's really the result of a lot of hard work and things that were put into place well before I got here, and you all have been hearing about this longer than I've been part of the department, so things are going well there. We're very pleased. In our petroleum technology division, things are progressing according to our schedules. Our senior petroleum chemist is at the ASTM meeting this week in Atlanta, so we continue to be engaged on a national level with discussions regarding petroleum technology, testing, those kinds of things. So I'll look forward to giving you any interesting tidbits that come back from that at your next meeting. In Weights and Measures, I think I tried to give you a heads up, not that some of you didn't already know, at your last meeting that we had what I would call a pretty challenging livestock inspection season, between staffing shortages, equipment malfunctions, and quite frankly, some areas where we weren't as organized as we could have been. We had a tough year. We've kind of all rallied back together, done a post-season analysis, and identified some places where I think we'll be able to improve moving forward. So obviously things like equipment malfunctions are hard to avoid, but getting back on schedule with preventative maintenance in our division should start to address that. I would note that as of the time that I prepared this report, you'll see it there in that section, second paragraph under Weights and Measures, we continue to see significant growth in our device inventory, already at 6% for this year, year over year. So the growth that's happening out in our communities is translating to workload for our staff. Our team continues to be diligent and get as much done. I think I shared with you that we have had a campaign to kind of get caught back up on some inspections that has been several years out of date, and we are indeed making progress on that with really my goal that by the time we get to the end of this calendar year that we've minimized those to the extent possible. Our invoicing and revenue collections for the year are on pace. We are looking at some modifications to our collection procedures to be sure that where there are license fees that are outstanding, that we are collecting those, and that if we are not, that the devices that are associated with those registrations are no longer being used for commercial purposes in our state. So we're doing our best to be sure that we're being fair, firm, and consistent in the application of that statewide. From a staffing perspective, we are fully staffed with the exception of one position in Elko. You've been hearing me say for several months now that we had been recruiting for Weights and Measure Inspector 3, and ultimately, I'm pleased to say we're able to promote Steve Terry from Weights and Measures Inspector 2 to Weights and Measures Inspector 3. The bad news there is that now his position was taken, and so we're back into the recruiting cycle, but feel pretty good about our possibility for recruiting at that classification, and so I hope that early in the new year we'll be back to fully staffed for all of our FTEs, which doesn't necessarily meet our demand, but it would be fully staffed for our authorized positions. And then one other thing I would note, similar to the collaboration that Interim Director Conrad mentioned earlier with Department of Taxation and Plant Industry, CE is also engaged with Department of Taxation and the Nevada Dispensary Association and are looking to work together and hold a joint training in late January of 2019 to educate marijuana establishment owners on what the requirements are with regard to weighing and measuring devices in our state, what is considered to be a commercial device versus a non-commercial device, what they can expect from our inspectors when they're there to certify their scales, and quite frankly, really to also push out to them. We see in many areas, and I think this is overall a positive thing, that those establishment operators really want to do the right thing, and in some cases, they kind of have this mentality, well, if this is a good scale, a better scale, and a best scale, if I buy the best scale, I'm certain to be meeting all the requirements. And in many cases, they're overbuying, and they've bought such a sophisticated scale that it's hard for them to keep it in tolerance. And so we want to have a dialogue with them about somewhere in the middle there is probably just fine. Don't overbuy, because it's going to be hard for you to keep it in tolerance, and you're going to have more frequent testing and calibration. So we're excited about that collaboration and engaging with that industry, particularly as they continue to grow. The Department of Taxation did just approve 61 additional provisional dispensary licenses this last week. Those, again, are provisional licenses. Those establishments will still have to go through the local regulatory process, and typically it's 9 months to a year before they come online. But if every one of those establishments has one scale, and they don't, they have multiples, that's just going to add to that 6% increase that I mentioned earlier. So certainly building connection within that industry is important for us, and we're excited about that collaboration. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Yes, sir.
I have one question. When you said equipment failure, what would identify? Abuse of equipment and breaking it, or
no,
malfunction of equipment?
malfunction of equipment. Leaf springs on a trailer that broke way out in the middle of nowhere. A skid steer that the starter went out on. It's mostly wear and tear items, things that just, sometimes stuff breaks and you didn't expect it. Across the division, I am working with our staff. Our team's engaged on trying to put together more proactive equipment maintenance schedules, so that we're trying to get out ahead of those things and getting underneath and looking at stuff before we head out on the road. There wasn't anything that I saw that gave me concern that our staff wasn't taking good care of the equipment when they're in the field or using it properly. Unfortunately, in some cases, the equipment is old, and it gets a lot of wear and tear during that season.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Dr. Spratley.
I would like to thank Cadence for coming to the cattlemen's meeting. It takes a lot of bravery to walk into a very large group of ranchers and tell them that their fees are going up. And she did a very excellent job at that, and she was able to explain it to them, so it was very well received. People understand why the fees are going up. So thank you. She represented this department very well.
And I'd actually like to echo that on all the industries that I've heard and seen the interaction with. I mean, this would have been one that the department could have just said, here it is, like it or leave it, here what we are doing with the regs. And I appreciate the background, the history that you provided, to where, whether it's my industry or Boyd's, none of us like seeing an increase. But when you look at the data and you go, yeah, there's a problem, and we've got to adjust it. And then likewise, not just saying one way is going to fit everyone, but working with industry individually to come up with a plan. And I want to thank you for that. I am interested in seeing it. Seems like the propane or liquefied gas side, that could be an interesting. I never thought of it from that point of view. So thank you for getting creative there, because yeah, if they're going in and testing equipment, why the heck are we sending someone in to go to that same spot and perform testing? So yeah, it looks like there are some good opportunities, so thank you for what you guys have done.
Thank you, and I appreciate the support that I've had from board members in connecting me with industry. You know, I think, and with industry in participating in the process. It's not always fun to sit down and talk about spending more money and why and how, but I think it has been a good process, and look forward to continuing that positive relationship across the industry.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Item 9, food and nutrition, a board update from Homa. Good morning, Homa.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
For the record, I'm Homa Anushapur, Administrator for Food and Nutrition Division. I'm going to start with the staffing. I'm pleased to say we filled 2 vacancies, one in Reno, our school nutrition supervisor that was vacant for 13 months, and also filled the food and nutrition specialist in Las Vegas. That one was also vacant for almost a year. And we also promoted 2 existing staff, Darren Hogan became the supervisor for community nutrition team, and Devin Wilcox for our newly created food distribution unit. So he's a supervisor for that. We are anticipating to recruit for our reclassified positions, and we are getting one step closer to be almost fully staffed. And in terms of our program, as I mentioned in the previous update, we had, starting last February, we had 5 management evaluation, which is monitoring and evaluation of USDA of our program. So 5 of our programs were evaluated last year, which was another strain on our staff. So with respect to the food emergency assistance program, we closed the management evaluation, so we're done. We also completed compliance review of Food Bank of Northern Nevada, and we are very pleased in the administration of our TFAP program. We also evaluated for our commodity supplemental food program, or CSFP. One of the corrective actions was they wanted a state plan. That one is already submitted and approved, and we are revising the policy and procedure manual. That was another request from USDA. With regard to senior farmers market nutrition program, after we closed that program in summer, we realized we have $16,200 additional funds remaining. So what we did, we used that for a bulk purchase of the produce from Nevada's farmers, and we purchased 12,150 tons of produce and 540 tons of honey from 7 farmers throughout the state. And an example of produce was potatoes, tomato, yam, apples, pears, and we did it in collaboration with the Tree Square. So we distributed these to our senior citizens. And
So was that throughout the state that it was distributed?
no, it was just in southern part of the state. Because we did it through the senior share program, which is the
Just southern side, okay.
Yeah. In terms of audit services, our auditors are continuing to determine the financial viability for those sponsors that want to participate in our China adoption food program. So that's something ongoing that happens. And also, we have started the compliance review for FY19, and we developed forms and all the application and monitoring forms that are, we got some feedback from our stakeholders, so we developed new forms, and we are approving renewal applications. In terms of National School Lunch Program, that was another program that was evaluated by USDA this summer, and we submitted all the corrective action by the deadline on November 1st, and we are waiting for them to respond to us. In terms of administrative reviews for school nutrition, we have 12 sites that this year we have to monitor, and we have done 3 site visits already, and we're going to do the rest of it. And for the Washoe County, USDA wants to come along and accompany us on that too, as they did last year for Clark County, so. And we have already arranged everything for them to be here. And we have also administrative review and training grant, and we call it ART grant. As I mentioned, this was a grant that was given to us to do the direct certification for our families, not to fill out the 443 and the youth lunch. And we work in collaboration with the Department of Welfare and the Department of Education. And I'm pleased to say that just with the direct certification match with Medicaid, Clark County added 40,000 more students to 300 lunch. And our match rate is close to 97%, which is above the national rate at this point. And we are, there is another RFP that was released 2 weeks ago by USDA, and we are going to apply for this second round of this grant, and also the technology grant that helps us to build our in-house systems rather than outsourcing that to other companies. We also have a team nutrition grant, which is an educational grant, and we're helping to educate, and there is a program called Pick a Bread Snack, and we are going to evaluate that to see if those who have provided a lesson on this program are they still the students are more aware of the food and using fruit and vegetables and healthy food compared to those students that have not been participating in this program. So we're hoping to see whether this program has made any difference. And in terms of assistants, we are, as I mentioned, we're trying to bring most of our assistants in-house with the two good employees we have there that are working on this, and we have also hired an intern from UNR, and we are building a new food safety application, and we are in the process of building a new food distribution system, and then after that we are going to work on a school nutrition system. Also, I have been always inclined to provide training for our staff. We have some training that we provided and some trainings that are required by USDA. So we completed 2 supervisory courses for our supervisors, decision making for supervisors, and a leader's guide to delegation. We also completed our annual civil rights training of applicable SNE staff. Food safety staff, right now, I guess they are participating in the dairy farm sanitation course in Sacramento, and our art grant staff participated in charges in New Orleans in CNAT conference, which is for all people who are working on technology, improving technology for food and school nutrition. They get together and they present best practices, and we actually learned a lot from Michigan in order to build our own system. And also my staff are, 3 of my staff are attending grant writing, because that helps us to bring more money to the division. And also we have 2 wellness conference funding that we are providing education to 2 districts, one in the south on February and one in the north in March. And we also got a grant from USDA to provide training for our CHSP program, so we are hiring a coordinator. We are in the process of hiring a coordinator to provide the statewide training for our CHSP sponsors. With that,
I do have a question, I'm sorry. CACFP.
Child and Adult Care Food Program.
Thank you. I'm sure it's in here somewhere.
I did, you find it at the beginning.
Thank you. Any questions for Homer? The other division administrators may disagree with this, but I think you have the most complex division and a lot of moving parts, and appreciate the fact that you're reining it with control. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The other administrators can talk to me afterwards if they don't.
You're right.
And when I listened to your presentation, I'm like, holy cow.
Yes, we have 13 out of 15 USDA programs in our division.
Well, thank you. And thank your team. Actually, I've had a chance to
Absolutely.
meet some of just
Absolutely.
a few of them, and good people that care about what they're doing.
They're passionate and hardworking, yeah.
All right, we're moving on to number 10, plant industry. And Jennifer, sorry we don't get to see you in person, but I heard that you're up there. So Jennifer, it's all yours.
I am here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to the board here and in Sparks. I hope you're enjoying your weather in Las Vegas. It's cold here.
We both brag that it's 60 and we're all wearing shorts.
No, go ahead and brag. I don't blame you. I have in front of you, you have a few highlights from the past few months for plant industry, and I'm just going to roll down them here. In our chemistry lab program, we have completed 138 hemp samples for this season, which, as you can imagine, and I'll address a little bit later in our in the update, that the hemp industry has grown significantly in the 2018 season, and so this is up from 20 hemp samples that we had run last year, so we've had significant increase. And the hemp industry is growing quite enough, and you know, folks are getting involved much more on the regulatory side, and so we are also in our chemistry lab participating in an assessment that's put out by the University of Kentucky to qualify as a hemp testing facility, and also to see how in line we are with other hemp testing facilities across the United States. And so this is a new program that we're participating in, and we're quite excited about the potential about that. Our chemistry lab is also working on a THC post-decarboxylation method, and this is really important because this is new language coming from the new Farm Bill that's coming out. The latest reports of the Farm Bill, they do have the Hemp Act within the Farm Bill, and within that Hemp Act, it specifies a post-decarboxylation, that's post-heating method for analyzing THC. We currently do a pre-decarboxylation method, so we do a cold method currently. So our chemistry lab is, over the next few months, going to be working on this new method to get ready for the Farm Bill for this next hemp season. In our pest control program, we've seen a significant increase in licenses. I keep talking about, not only in budgetary reasons, but also in the industry in general, how much this industry is growing. And here are some year-end numbers. We have over 1,900 operator licenses, which is up from 1,600 over the previous year. So we've seen a significant increase there. We have over 550 business licenses, which is up from just around 510 or so. And we've seen now 19 verified complaints, which in previous years we've usually only gotten 2 to 4. And so we've seen a significant increase in this industry. To address some of the industry needs, we are launching a pilot program this spring. It's a test preparation class that we're starting with the aquatics license, and we'll also have for the weeds license. So this is a test preparation class that we're offering to any licensees that want to come in and take the test. It's to help them understand a little bit more, and not just hand them a study guide and tell them good luck. It's to help them prepare for the test. We're starting with the aquatics test, mainly because it's one of our most difficult tests, but also because we really want to encourage companies to go for that aquatics license with the increase in Zika that is being reported in southern Nevada. And so we really would like to see more operators have that aquatics license. And also in the pest control program, we're expecting our new online testing system to come on this spring and summer, which will significantly increase the efficiency of that program, and really will help the public and the industry have a better communication and better interaction with our program. So we're really excited about that. Moving on to our environmental sciences program, we were hosted, the state of Nevada was selected to host the laboratory workshop meeting. This is an honor granted to us by the Environmental Protection Agency, so we're quite grateful for them to recognize us as a state for that laboratory workshop meeting. Hemp comes up again in pesticide use. There are currently 4 pesticides now available for use on hemp. Previously, there was no legal way for hemp producers to use pesticides or herbicides, and so the EPA now has granted 4 pesticides having label use as allowed to use on hemp. So we are informing all of our growers about these tools that are now available for their use. And then we do have new staff in our environmental services. We are happy to have a new agriculturist 3 come over from the California Department of Agriculture, which has he has a ton of experience in pesticide work in California, so we're excited to welcome him on staff. So moving on to our crops program, we had quite an exciting past couple of weeks. We received a tip from the Oregon Department of Agriculture that there was a Christmas tree farm in North Carolina that had infestations of elongated hemlock scale that were shipped to not only Oregon but also the state of Nevada. And I am really proud of our nursery team. In 2.5 days, we were able to identify the specific Fraser firs that came from that farm, put a stop sale on them, confirm that they were infected, and removed them from sale all within 2.5 days. And this is from major retailers all across the state of Nevada. And so we were able to, like I said, get that done in 2.5 days, and so I'm so proud that they were able to do that. And it really protected our native fir population from being infected from these pests. So they did such a great job on that. And the kudos continue. We also, the crops program, passed our BICMIS audit. That's the branch internal quality management system that the USDA requires us to undergo on an annual basis. They audit our export program and our onion grading program, and we passed that audit with flying colors. And so there's, like I said, kudos goes to that program as well. We've had 10 specialty crop block grants awarded this season to various nonprofits and farmers across the state. So those will be awarded as soon as the funding is announced from USDA. The crops program also co-hosted a Western Region Produce Safety meeting in Denver, and so they were responsible for speaking on 4 topics on produce safety at Denver, and this was attended by not only regulatory agencies across the West, but also farms that are complying with the produce safety rules. So we were co-hosting in that. And the latest update on hemp is that we have moved the hemp program under crops. And so it has always been our intention to treat hemp like an agricultural crop. And so this is one way that we're sort of following through on that, is we're moving it under our crops program. It also gives us a little bit more experience in food safety for some of the handling portions of hemp, as well as the produce certificates. We're able to track it a little bit better. I've included in our update some numbers here so you can see how much the hemp industry has grown, and we're expecting it to probably double in size again for next year's from the amount of interest and from the new licensees that we're expecting. So it has grown quite a bit. Our pathology program is wrapping up the season, and we are doing some education that we have found Phytoplasma bacterium on hemp. That is a confirmed identification. It's the first confirmed identification of Phytoplasma in the United States on hemp crop. This phytoplasma has been identified on the cherry wine and berry blossom varieties, which are two very popular varieties of hemp. And so we are tracking that, as well as doing some education to let people know that this bacterium is out there and how to identify it. It causes witch's brooming, which is pretty devastating to the plant. If you are infected with this bacteria, you won't have a crop. We are tracking that and doing some education on that. In our entomology program, all of our traps for our quarantine pests are in for this season and have tested negative. The only one that we do have outstanding is the fire ant quarantine pest that we'll be trapping for throughout December. And we do have, although brown marmorated stink bug and elm seed bug are not quarantine pests, we are seeing traps. We are trapping for those and seeing them being reported in new counties. So there is an increase in those pests in new counties. And so we're tracking that as well and monitoring the spread of those pests. And we'll look at some mitigation measures this spring on these pests. Moving on to noxious weeds. So the Department of Transportation has, and we've discussed this in previous board meetings, but the Department of Transportation has recognized a need for weed mitigation plans on a lot of their new projects that they have throughout the state. And so they have collaborated with us in the Department of Agriculture to review those plans and to not only review the plans, but to also review the contracts that they receive to look at weed mitigation as part of their overall transportation project. So we are starting those reviews this past month. We've been contacted by a few of their contractors, so we are starting to review those plans. We're expecting in the next budget cycle that NDOT will fund a position within the Department of Agriculture just to review those plans as a full-time job. That's how many that there will be. So we are starting now, but we are expecting funding for a position from them next budget cycle. And we are starting to participate more as part of the noxious weed team in county commission meetings all across the state to educate the counties a little bit more about noxious weeds and the issues that come along with noxious weeds, especially coming off this latest fire season. And so our noxious weed team is really making an effort over the next couple of months to visit with the county commissioners and make presentations at the meetings to discuss noxious weeds and their effects on our wildlands within the state. And moving on to natural resources, our range app training has been delayed a bit. There were some problems with the back-end programming of our range app. It's still available. You can still download it onto your iPhone and Android. This doesn't affect the function of it, but we do want to clean up a few more details before we start doing some of those trainings. So we are working on that with the developers. The Natural Resources team has participated in environmental impact studies for the Forest Service Sage Grouse, BLM Sage Grouse projects, and also the Fallon Naval Expansion project. There's been, Megan Brown has been putting quite a bit of work into those projects, making sure that Department of Agriculture has a role and that we're representing our farmers and ranchers on those projects and making sure that voices are heard. So that's been some very important work that's happened over the last 3 months. As Director Conrad alluded, we've been participating on emergency stabilization and rehabilitation projects for the 2018 fires. Part of that was the press conference with Congressman Amadei's office, but also we've been working on providing information to the federal government, BLM, U.S. Forest Service, on the value of agriculture in some of those fire areas. And so that's been important work that we've been engaging with our federal partners. Looking forward, we did have a native seed coordination meeting, and this included state partners, federal partners, and nonprofit groups. And this was really a planning meeting and discussing a lot of what's been happening in native seed and the progress that we've had so far, but also what work really needs to be done. And what I got out of that meeting was that, we're at the point where the agriculture industry really needs to be engaged in native seed as far as producing native seed that would be available for our federal partners to purchase. And so what came out of that meeting is some great plans and some great ideas moving forward on how we can budget to get our native seed population increased by working with our farmers in our state. We have Russ Wilhelm, who will be speaking on native seed at our Farms Conference in February, or at the Farms Conference in February. And so we're really moving forward on the native seed project, and we also have appropriations that we're requesting in the next budget for this native seed program. So we're looking forward to seeing how that plays out in this next legislative cycle. And also Megan Brown has been traveling quite a bit and working with our federal partners, results-oriented grazing for ecological concerns group meetings, Western Governors Invasive Species Forum, and the Sagebrush Ecosystem Council meetings have all been occurring these last 3 months, which have been important touch points for us. So,
Okay.
I hope I didn't drown you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes, of course.
Board, any questions for Jennifer?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Jennifer, are we getting a lot of responses back from the expansion of Naval Air Station and going in, I think, to 3 counties, right?
I'm going to turn it over to Megan Brown. Who's working on that.
Yeah, Megan Brown for the record. So, can you clarify the question? Are getting a lot of responses from?
Well, from the community, from the farmers, from maybe hunters, recreational people. What type of responses are we getting back regarding either opposition or favorable opinions for the expansion of the naval air space?
So a lot of responses, I guess. So both from the county and community levels, NACO has been participating and has had a lot of coordination with the Navy and their contractors that are drafting the EIS. The EIS is out for public comment currently, so if you're interested, I'm happy to give you links to be able to review that or the comments that we have provided. The governor's office coordinated all the state agencies, so Department of Wildlife commented on wildlife issues. We commented on the grazing and farming impacts as well as water infrastructure. The Division of Minerals and Geothermal and Division of Water also made comments as well related to all of that. And so the engagement has been solely kind of through the governor's office for our division, or excuse me, for our department. But I know that NACO and other sportsmen's groups have also met with the Navy contractors, really trying to articulate not only is the footprint of what is actually the expansion, but then the implications of what that means. So when you close 40% of an allotment, you're closing the allotment. So you can't just count AUMs or those census or those water rights or the impact that may mean wholeheartedly for those operations. And so we've been trying to really articulate that. It's been a challenge there. Obviously DOD has a very specific mission, and what they're going to plan to do on that ground is very specific, and so it's not necessarily a negotiable sort of thing, but I think really trying to get them to understand the economic impact has been probably our largest challenge, because I think they just see borders on a map and say, oh, well, that's it, and trying to really articulate that's not all that's going on. So, yeah, so if you're interested, happy to share with you what we.
What are the primary hot spots on maybe opposition to it? Is it AUMs or water rights,
I think all those things and basically.
lack of access?
Access, it was interesting, our first meeting, they were talking about putting, how you could only go on Fridays and Saturdays out to go check cows and water and that sort of stuff. So just trying to get them educated on, you can't just cowboy 2 days a week. And some of that sort of stuff. So yes, so some of those are direct impacts, and then from a grazing perspective, yes, so AUMs, infrastructure, water rights, and then a lot of those allotments are winter allotments, and so winter allotments in Nevada are highly coveted because that means that they're out on public lands and not feeding hay on their operations, and so kind of articulating that economic impact is not necessarily just trying to go find another allotment. Winter allotments are hard, but that potentially they're gonna have to bring those cows home and feed them hay, which is much more expensive. And then from the bombing range perspective, there's kind of 3 areas that are expanding, so that they have one training station, I can't remember what they're called, they have Bravo 20, 17, and 19, but one of them is kind of on the ground operations where they're using live fire and that sort of stuff, and then but the more of our concern is more the actual bombing range, and getting them to understand that, when you cause fires by blowing stuff up all the time, that you're gonna have an expansion of potential weeds. And they don't wanna go in and do treatments, because there could potentially be live ordinances, which we get, but you have a border, and how are you gonna monitor the weed expansion along the border of that, and what that potentially means? How are you gonna fight fire if you have an explosion close to the border, and then that burns an allotment? What does that mean, and all those stuff? So just trying to articulate kind of a whole system, is not just
right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, they've got public meetings happening this month as well.
We do.
Yeah, and so, the Churchill County has been working with RCI and Jeremy Drew, and they've been highly engaged in articulating from a county, government perspective, and we really tried to work with NACO to have them articulate more of the holistic economic sort of stuff, and we focus mostly just on the operations perspective from an individual permittee.
Did you attend the meeting in Hawthorne?
I did not.
You didn't? Okay.
Nope, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one question up here, Dr. Stratling.
Would you mind talking just a little bit more about the NDOT project review and weed mitigation? I think it's pretty obvious that increasingly that the weeds are causing a major problem on all of our roads, both county and state highways. And from a perspective of just driving by and seeing it, I'm not seeing a lot of mitigation or any kind of projects. What are they actually looking at? Is there going to be an improvement over what's happening right now?
So what they're addressing, at this point, what they're addressing with this project is projects starting now and then anything from now on, basically. So it's not addressing projects in the past. So they're asking, as part of their contract approval process, for us to review the contract, with our stamp of approval, that the contractors have put into place enough of a weed mitigation plan moving forward. So you're right, it's not addressing past projects. We are looking, at past projects by inspecting gravel pits and inspecting a lot of those NDOT used resources. But it's not addressing the projects that are either happening now or happened in the past, and that's something that we're still talking to them about. So we've made this step forward with them, and to their credit, they recognize this is an issue and that they have not been following guidelines and are putting people in place to do so. So that this is just a first step in many that will be taken.
And Sean has been, can I add one more thing too, Jen? I think Sean has also been working with different regional offices to educate them on plan identification and that sort of stuff, just so their road crews can start being aware of what's out there, or if people make comments that they know who to report that information to. I think there's been some turnover and that sort of stuff, and so I think it's been Sean's goal, not only from moving forward perspective for construction stuff, but then just trying to do general education within DOT to ensure that they're communicating, and that we're communicating to them when we get reports of things on roadways that they're addressing them.
Thank you.
Do have one question for you, Jennifer. Going back to the pest control, the 19 verified complaints, were those isolated to a certain region, a certain type of business? Is it a new operator to the area, or was it?
No, there's no pattern there. It's different operators. It could be somebody getting sprayed. It could be somebody's tree getting sprayed. It could have been. So there's no pattern there. We're seeing an increase, and we're starting to ask the questions of why, because this is pretty unusual. But I think that we have more educated citizenry, and folks knowing who to call now. I think that other agencies would get these phone calls and they would just sort of disappear into the ethos. And so now I think that it's getting to the point where we're getting the information out that, this is, who you call, this is a process you go through, and this is what we can and can't do to address your problems. And so yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. We do have one more question, Mr. Dufresne.
When do you anticipate having the app out in the training going for that this spring? There's been some talk about some stuff going on as far as TNR type grazing and that kind of stuff, but we're going to have to be monitoring on our own more, so I'm just kind of curious there.
Yeah, like I said, the app is available for use. And so you can use it. It's just, dealing with some of the, behind the scenes items. But I don't, training in the spring is absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
This spring, you said?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
okay.
This spring.
That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, ladies. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item number 11. Normally we take a break right about now, but since we're right to the last item here, we're going to go ahead and push through. So I appreciate your cooperation, your patience. So this is public comment, and we'll go ahead and start here in Las Vegas. We'll make sure indeed no one's in Elko, and then go up to Sparks, and then, like I said, Charlie, I'll pass the gavel over to you. And it sounds like we do have a timekeeper up there to make sure it's fair to everyone, and we're all being held to the 3 minutes. So first off here, Mr. Busselman or anyone in the public wish to speak? All right. Elko, is there anyone that's off screen that maybe wants to speak up there? All right, seeing no one there, then we're going to go ahead and move to Sparks. Mr. Frey, the gavel is now passed to you.
Am I ready? Yes, I am. My secretary's gonna handle it.
Charlie has asked us to help yell out the names, and I'll be doing the timing. So Rebecca's gonna help me with it, and we'll get started. Louise Martin?
All right, thank you.
Members of the Nevada Board of Agriculture.
Can you please speak up? We cannot hear you down here.
Okay. Members of the Nevada Board of Agriculture, can you hear me now?
Perfect, thank you.
For the protection and preservation of the historic Virginia range horses, I request that the PZP Humane Birth Control Program be restarted. There is no reason not to restart the program that was reducing population growth rates of the historic Virginia range horses at no cost to Nevada taxpayers. Polls show that 86% of Nevadans believe free roaming horses, wild horses,
are important symbols for our state that must be protected and humanely managed. The vast majority support resumption of public-private partnership for humane management. The overwhelming majority of Nevadans love and support the state of Nevada's free-roaming horses. The PZP birth control program is proven successful and well documented. I'm just going to give a few examples. Spring Creek Basin, Colorado, PZP in use since 2012, and no horses have been removed since 2011. McCulloch Peaks, Wyoming, PZP in use since 2012, 0 population growth achieved in 2015, no removal since 2013. Challis, Idaho, use of PZP has slowed population growth rates, meaning a longer time between roundups, and the need to remove 70% fewer horses from the range. Little Brook Cliff, Colorado. I'm trying to speak loud. PZP use has stabilized population growth rates in this herd. The last helicopter roundup was 2009. Pryor Mountains, Montana. According to the BLM, the Billings State is excited to be on the cusp of nearly eliminating the need for wild horse removal due to use of PZP. It is critically important that we restart as quickly as possible the humane birth control of the Virginia range horse. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve Page?
Hello. The NDA's abrupt cancellation of the program in October 2017 left the Virginia range horse population unmanaged and growing. It's a habitat that is rapidly shrinking due to encroaching development. With less natural resources, less land to graze, we cannot continue to have an increasing number of horses. We urgently need to reinstate the PZP birth control program. Local volunteers are committed and continue to update what is the world's largest database. Our WINS database includes over 2,500 horses. Most horses can easily be identified. The volunteers are trained, certified, insured, equipped with air rifles, range finders, guards, and the PZP vaccine. We're ready to resume the birth control starting program immediately. We only have until spring before most of these horses get bred back again. A lot of the horses are pregnant now, and we need to restart this program immediately to have any significant impact on the 2020 full count. Thank you.
Suzanne Roy?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Roy, and I'm the director of the American Wild Horse Campaign. We're a national organization. I live in Davis, California, but I came over today to just reiterate our support for the community-based effort to manage the Virginia range horses and to support the birth control program. We do have 2 field representatives now in Nevada, Steve, who you just heard from, and Deb, and they're both terrific, and they have a lot of experience out in the field with wild horses. And we're just ready to support the program in any way we can. We're disappointed that it's been 14 months and these horses remain unmanaged in a population that's increasing in a habitat that's decreasing. And the private resources are available, the corporate support is available, the manpower is available through all the great volunteers. Some of them are here today. So there's really no reason to continue to delay, and we're hopeful and looking forward to working with new leadership at the department and the new governor to get this thing moving again. And then I brought some, there's been some talk about the use of a different vaccine, Gonacon versus PZP, and I think it's brought up to confuse the situation because the whole PZP program is in place, ready to go. But I did want to highlight some of the differences between the two vaccines. I'll probably run out of time, but I do have this written down. In terms of history of use, the Gonacon vaccine has been used in a very limited number of wild horses. The sample size for the studies is about 28 horses, and that doesn't have much statistical power. It has never been delivered remotely by DART in the field. There's one study in a pen where they tried darting the vaccine. The efficacy of the first shot is far lower than the PZP vaccine. It's about 30% with Gonacon, and it's 60 to 70% with PZP, which you then follow with a booster within 2 weeks, and that goes up to 95%. And there's some downsides, like 70% of the horses that get injected or darted with Gonacon have injection site reactions, which are big lumps on their sides where the vaccine goes in. And, you know, it's probably uncomfortable to the horses, but it's also unsightly. And in a program like this where you want public buy-in and the horses are very on display, people see them all the time, you don't want that happening. And with PZP, so that's 70% with Gonacon, and with PZP it's like 0.3% injection site reactions, and they're not as long-lasting. And then the other thing is kind of interesting, but, well, I'll just hand in my comparison. And we'd love to be able to have some of the people who are actually doing the work make a presentation to your board about the program in the coming year. I think that would be super useful to everyone. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Wayne Woolway?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to give the board my perspective as a certified darter. I'm the boots on the ground that actually does the work, as many of my colleagues behind me do. I would like to share what it meant to me when this program was canceled. I've darted throughout the Virginia range, but I was also given the opportunity to work stagecoach, which had never been worked before. I started it from scratch. That means I went out on the range, I found the horses, identified them, named them, put them in the WIM system, which is our national database, and then I started the PZP process, and I darted about 25 mares. Unfortunately, NDA then discontinued the agreement, and we were prevented from darting. That means that the hundreds of hours that I spent in the field for free as a volunteer were wasted, because you can't start and stop the contraception. It has to be a continuing process. So I was very disappointed. My position was, I didn't want to sit in my living room somewhere and complain about the NDA or how the horses were managed. I was out there in the field working as your partner to help manage the horses, which I would like to continue to do, as many of the people behind me. I worked real hard in the field to administer this program, to save the horses, provide for public safety, and to just be a general volunteer for the community. But as hard as I work, there's people in this room that work 3 times harder in the field. You get an amazing amount of free work from us that you could not buy with employees, because we have a passion and a dedication for the horse. I would encourage the board to reinstate the program. Unfortunately, it was a setback when you stop it, but we can start again and we can be effective. As a field guy, I know this is not the solution, the total solution to the management of the horses, but it's a major component, and it's one that is common. I get a lot of questions from the community because I interact with them when I'm darting. And people ask, you know, what are you doing and why? And we always explain, and people are very, very impressed with what we do. In fact, they're astounded at the amount of work we do for free as volunteers, and that the state doesn't even pay for the PZP. That's through the American Wild Horse Campaign. So the community is very, very supportive. But when they ask me, well, why would the government stop the program if it helps manage the horses and it doesn't cost us, the taxpayers, anything? and I really don't have an answer for them. And I would ask that you consider reinstating the program from the standpoint of the value of it, that we work for free, that the community wants it, and it's a part of the solution that you really don't have anything to replace it with. There is no solution that you've come up with. We are part of the solution, so please use this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Dane?
Hello, thank you all for seeing me. I'm going to reiterate some of the things that have been said. Hello, my name is Maureen Dane, and I am a certified fertility control darter. I also help with many aspects involving the Virginia Range. I've done rescues, safety with horses on the roadway, all volunteer. I think it's important to share that even though the actual darting has been paused, we have all continued documenting and entering the horses in our WIM system. Because of the dedication of all the volunteers, we could resume darting as soon as this meeting was over. The use of PZP, safe and reversible fertility control, plays much more of an important role than just the health of the Mustangs. But, and I want to stress this point, the health of the range itself. I love our public lands and want to be a part of keeping them pristine for generations to come, and with that comes dedicated management. Another benefit and equally important aspect of fertility control, darting, will help us regulate the growth of herds that, if left unmanaged, will likely to contribute to increased public safety hazards and endangering lives. I am sitting before you and asking you to please consider reinstating the fertility control program today and work together, not just for the sake of the Mustangs, but the health of our rangelands and the safety of our public. We are here, we are ready to continue such an important program, one that would certainly be a model for many areas in HMAs to follow. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Deb Walker?
Hi, I'm Deb Walker, Nevada field rep for American Wild Horse Campaign, and also one of the founding members for the Fish Springs Fertility Control Program that was started in 2012. And I want to address that quickly, because that program was right on the cusp of being successful, which means zero growth, and it was stopped for approximately 2 years. During that two-year time, there was population growth, and then recently, with the number of horses that the BLM wanted to take off that range, was roughly equivalent to the growth after the stop of that program. Now, that doesn't make sense to me, okay? It costs about, now these are about $800 per horse to round up, just the roundup part, okay? To dart a mare, and you only have to dart the mares, it's $70 the first year, because that's your primer and your booster. Over her lifetime, because after that, you only need to vaccinate her, and that's $35, plus our free time out there, okay? And so over her lifetime, it would cost around $700 if we had to keep her vaccinated. Just the mares. Now you compare that to all the horses they round up and the estimated cost of $800 a horse. It just does not make sense to me that a government agency wouldn't use volunteers who are using a product that is paid for by donations, no tax dollars. Rifles are purchased, PZP is purchased, range finders, all the things that go with it, in fact, including the schooling that goes along with it. It just is such a win-win situation for everybody. And then when you look at putting together the cooperative efforts of volunteers, government agencies, and even possibly ranchers, because right now I'm going to be working with a couple of ranchers, and Benton works with us, that are going to want to start darting horses. So people are starting to see the common sense in this. They're starting to acknowledge the fact that the public, 86% of Nevadans, don't want the horses taken away. This is, our quarter for has Mustangs on it. So we need to start acknowledging that. This program needs to start up immediately. We have major businesses in support of it. We have Nevadans. We have all these volunteers that are in support of this, and yet we've been given no reason. We just can't do it. And this is a public safety issue, and it really is ignoring the public.
Thank you.
Gary Bayer?
Can I speak last? Would that be okay?
You are last.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
Unless there's anybody else who wanted to speak.
No, I think we're good to go then. Good morning. My name is Gary Bayer. I'm the Director of Operations for Blockchains LLC, for the record. So good morning to the Chairman Anderson and the rest of the members of the Board of Agriculture. And thank you for the time and opportunity to speak to you about this important matter about the wild horses that are on our property at TRI. I'm not the public speaker for the company. I'm the operations director, so this is kind of new to me to present this to the board. But let me go at it here. For the record, we're the largest property owner at TRI, which was just designated by the Governor Sandoval as Innovation Park. And so, for the record, that our owner has committed to addressing the wild horse population on our 67,000 acres on the Virginia Range. And in the board meeting last September, it was stated that any long-term successful cooperative agreement that was going to be successful had to include the public or the private landowners, which we are. We couldn't agree more, so we're here to share today our commitment to having the wild horses stay on our property and our land. But addressing the very concern that we really have is a public safety concern for the lack of population maintenance control with the darting program of the horses and their ability to I guess, overpopulate the area if we don't start a program immediately. So our CEO is committed to all those that drive the Story County roads. He's also committed that any horse on the Blockchains property will remain on Blockchains property from today going forward. So he's tasked me to lead an initiative within the park, within TRI, to work with the feral horse population maintenance on our property, which is an underlying task in itself, as you well know. Not having a cooperative agreement in place has put all the pedestrians, all the public safety in issues at our park. So since July, I've met with every horse advocacy group that I could, which is about 12 of them, a lot of people that are here today. I've kind of educated myself on the issues and determined that the birth control darting program must resume immediately. It's just 14 months since the last time it's happened. We're looking at an overgrowth of population at our park. And with the new companies moving in and stuff like that, I'm able to determine where the new growth is going to happen, so we can play a big part in getting the horses to the areas where they need to be in with the proper watering sources and things of that nature. I also, since September, have met with Director Conrad and Doug Ferris, which I appreciate the opportunity to do that with you guys. Very, very helpful. And that discussing the cooperative agreement may not take place immediately, but we're advocating that the darting program start immediately, if possible. And that you give it a lot of concern, a lot of thought to do that. It would help Virginia Range, all the horses, the public safety, to make that happen.
That's fine.
Last comment I wanted to make is that TRI has asked me to speak on their behalf for the 107,000 acres at TRI, and that all the companies that I've talked to so far are really engaging in their efforts to support the programs that we put in place also. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Frey, that's it down there?
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you very much. it looks like we're done with public comment, so we're gonna go ahead and adjourn. I wanna thank, all of you there in Sparks that, came to speak and take part in this. We appreciate it.
Thank
All
you
right,
for
well, thank
listening.
you. Thank you, and with that, we're gonna adjourn.
Thank you all very much.